All right, I think we should start.
Sure, whenever you're ready.
Yes. So before starting, I request everyone, all the participants who are in the meeting, kindly keep yourself muted so that without disturbance, we could. I think someone's mic is on. I request everyone to kindly keep yourself mute. Thank you. A very good afternoon, everyone, and warm welcome on behalf of Prime Minister's Museum and Library Society and Nehru Planetarium. Myself, Prerna Chandra, I'm working as a program manager here. Welcome you all in today's session, which is To Infinity and Beyond by Mr. Gabe Gabriel, space motivational speaker. And before introducing to our esteemed guest, I would also like to thank Mr. Sanjay Rathi from Space Development Nexus organization for giving this opportunity to interact with such great speaker. Quickly, I also like to share about Nehru Planetarium for just to get the understanding about the place. That Nehru Planetarium, New Delhi, is situated in the green surroundings of Teen Murti Bhavan. Earlier, the official residence of India's first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and now a museum in his memory. So Planetarium is one of the wing of that building, which is very active with program for school and college students and for amateur astronomers. Today is our great privilege to host, though we wanted to host this session at the planetarium offline so that our space enthusiast student could get the opportunity to meet sir. But due to examination and all, we kept this session online. So once again, we welcome Mr. Gabe Gabriel in this online session. So about Mr. Gabe, I would like to tell you that he's a dedicated NASA contractor with an impressive 17-year plus track record at the Kennedy Space Center, NASA, and has been instrumental in securing the vital infrastructure funding for NASA and has championed inclusively through the Disability Awareness and Action Working Group. In addition to his crucial work, he has been a captivating speaker at NASA Speaker Bureau for over 10+ years, sharing fascinating stories about space exploration, including mission to the moon and Mars. Gabe's passion for education extends beyond his work at NASA. He has actively engaged with schools, inspiring students to pursue career in STEAM field. He emphasizes the importance of setting goals and encouraging young minds to develop a positive outlook and unwavering self-belief. He inspired children to dream big and reach for the star with his infectious enthusiasm. In 2014, he was requested by American Embassy in Qatar to support a week-long community outreach on the 10th anniversary of Mars rover. He has been visited 185+ schools in Norway, Denmark, Germany, Qatar, Brazil, speaking with 33,000+ students. Also visited South America and spoke to over 88,000+ students while supporting both NASA and American Embassy outreach. Gabe visited around 40+ schools and institutions across India in 2019 and 22, along with served and interacted with over 10,000+ students as of now. 2016 recipient of Central Florida Aerospace Academy Raylene Award and Excellency in Aerospace Education. He is also a cited guide for a triathlete who is blind, a space motivational speaker, former engineer at Kennedy Space Center, NASA. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please give a warm welcome, an energetic welcome to Mr. Gabe Gabriel. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for joining with us today for this online session. Now, the mic is yours, and we are very much eager to listen about the infinity and beyond.
I thank you so much for that amazing introduction. You know, I want everybody, one of the things I like everybody to do is call me Gabe. It's my third time coming to India, and I really enjoyed the time in India. I actually was trying to come to India for many years. I never could get the opportunity, and finally, about 4 years ago, I got the opportunity. So it was fascinating for me to be here. It's my third time coming back, and each time has been amazing. I really, really enjoy the people of India. It's never about the country. To me, it's always the people. And I just totally enjoy being around the people in India. It's a lot of fun for me to do this. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy sharing the experience of what it was like to be at Kennedy Space Center. So I'm basically a civil structural type of engineer. Probably many of you watching and listening are engineers. There's many different disciplines of engineers. So at Kennedy Space Center, my job dealt with roads and bridges, buildings, elevators. You know, we have a lot of huge buildings on Kennedy Space Center, and a lot of stuff has to be brought to the top of it. You can't carry it up the stairs. So I have a lot of freight elevators, and one of the things I was responsible for was elevators. So for me, it was really an amazing type of situation. Most everybody who becomes an engineer, you're assigned to a design team, and based on your discipline, you support the other designers to come up with a special building to be built for a specific use. For me, you know, my job was a little bit differently. I was assigned to these different areas of bridges and roads and this type of thing. So if you think of Florida, Florida is a peninsula. It has water around 3 sides. Anything that comes to Florida and comes to Kennedy Space Center has to go over the water. So bridges are critical. It comes by train, come by truck, but mostly it just comes over a bridge. So if a bridge isn't functioning, then the flight hardware cannot get to the Space Center. So bridges are pretty critical. So I might go in the morning one day and they say, hey, Gabe, this bridge is not working. You know, you have to figure out why isn't it working? How do we fix it? And how much it costs? So it was an amazing opportunity to me to see everything on Kennedy Space Center. And I'm very, very thankful for all of the opportunities that I had. So today we have a little bit of limited time. We're going to try to talk about the space program, talk about a space shuttle, why we had the space shuttle, talk about astronauts right up in space right now, living on the International Space Station, learning to live in a weightless environment, learning to do experiments in space in a sterile environment that we can't do on Earth. Talk about rovers on Mars. There's rovers on Mars exploring Mars right now. And talk about the future of the American space program, which involves astronauts going to the moon and going to Mars. But I always like to commend ISRO, the Indian Space Program, because I think it is fascinating. And, you know, a few years ago, we had, for the first time ever, we had a ship going to a star, and the star was our sun. And very recently, India also has a ship going to the same sun, the same stars. So it's pretty cool. India has now a ship, a rover on the moon, and everything is going really well for the Indian Space Program. It's my privilege and my honor to support it any way I can. So those are some of the things we'll talk about. There's also something most important to me I like to talk about, a little bit about away from the space program. It's very important for me to let you know your life can be fun. You can be successful and still have fun. Most of the time you're told in order to be successful, you must work hard. You hear this over and over. You must work hard to be successful. But for me, I want you to know you never have to work. Nothing ever has to be hard. I always talk about 3 things, and I want you to think about these 3 things. Do your best, enjoy what you do, believe in yourself. If you can learn these 3 things, you will never work, you'll never have stress, you'll never have pressure. Your life can be fun. It's just those 3 simple things. And as we progress through the meeting, I will talk about them a little bit more. But right now, what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to give you a little bit of an idea of what it's like to be on a space center. So I'm at Kennedy Space Center, which is by the beach because I love the beach. But around America, we have many different space centers. So I'm going to screen share and I'm going to show you a little movie about what it's like to be at Johnson Space Center. Johnson Space Center is in Houston, Texas. This is where the astronauts live and where they train. So if they're at Johnson and they have to go to space, they will come to Kennedy, they will get on a ship, they will go to space. They will stay up usually at the space station for about 6 months. They'll come back to Kennedy, and then they will go back to Houston where they live and train. So I'm going to screen share. Hopefully this will go okay. And once I screen share, I'm going to show you a little bit of movie about what it's like to be at Johnson Space Center. One of the things I want to tell you about a space center, it's so much fun to be at a space center. It's really, really a magical environment. Everywhere you look, every building, every room has things about space. So everywhere you go, your mind is taking you to these magical places. And then you see a great big building and you see a ship being put together, and the ship is going to these magical places. So what do you think is magical and make believe becomes reality? And that's some of the fun of being on the Space Center. So I'm going to try and screen share so we can get started. Always had problems with this. So you see on the space slide, you can see my name is Gabe. That's a nickname. That's what my friends call me. If you have the opportunity to talk to me, please just call me by my name. So this is a movie I'm going to show you on what it's like to be at Johnson Space Center. And I want you to have fun.
NASA Johnson Star. Johnson Star. Welcome to NASA's Johnson Space Center. We are coming in hot, so don't burn up as we enter. We do science every day that affects your daily life. Throw them up for manned spaceflight. Science everywhere as we engineer the marvels that fly through the air and take us way beyond Earth's level. Science everywhere because we engineer the marvels that fly through the air, flies us through the air. It's so amazing. I'm
I want you to have some fun. Just clap with me. Ready? Come on.
Wow.
Johnson Star. That's the Johnson Star. Johnson Star. Earth International Space Station, where we work and live in space with the crew from several nations. Got Japanese and Russians and that European charm. Throw them up like the Canada arm. Picking out research. 2019 cubic feet revolves around the Earth. Science microgravity revolves around the Earth. Columbus jamming destiny. Kicking out research. Kicking out research. Bring the Astro, life in Johnson to go to space. Go to space. What's the mission? What you want? NASA Johnson Star.
Have some fun. Jump around.
Johnson Star. NASA Johnson Star. Johnson Star. NASA Johnson Star. NASA Johnson Star. Johnson Star. As the lesson PCB, we cannot feel the floor, because the lack of gravity, the destinations are. The asteroid was or the moon we are. Blasted off, stop the countdown soon.
So we count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you say blast off.
The Johnson star. That's the Johnson star.
So you see, it's a lot of fun to be at a space center. And this is what we have do every day. We have fun. And I want you to have fun with your lives. I want you to know you can be very successful and still have fun. So in America and India, we have something called STEM. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And if you have a good STEM background, you can get some pretty cool jobs. A little bit, a movie to show you some of the things you can do if you're good in STEM.
Ever think you could help invent artificial intelligence? Or design the tools used to perform research on Mars? How about finding the cure for cancer or helping to develop a green fuel? Before you say no, think again. Think STEM. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Studying STEM opens you to a wide range of hands-on, cutting-edge careers and can create amazing opportunities, from designing rockets to building robots to writing the computer programs that will change the way we work and live. You can help shape the future of our world. Are you ready for the challenge? Then let's get started.
Well, this is STEM. We also have something called STEAM that has an A in it. Science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. And this is Tina. Tina's a very good friend of mine. When I was studying math and science, she was going to Juilliard School of Dance in New York City, studying to become a dancer. She became a very good dancer. And she taught me about STEAM. She said, Gabe, when I study arts, I have to learn these 10 things. I have to learn to be creative, to build confidence, to solve problems. The same thing you do in math and science, I do in arts. So when you combine the two, you get a much better product. One of my favorite pictures in the space program, you see all those billions of stars. They're above us every single night. The reason you don't see them is because the light from the Earth filters them out. But if it was completely black on Earth, when you looked at the sky at night, you would see all those billions of stars. A little while, I'm going to show you a movie about what it's like to be on Mars, the lights on Mars. So when you see the night sky on Mars, you see all of these billions of stars. When we had shuttle launches, we had day launches, we had night launches. The night launches were spectacular. But night launch, everything is lit up like at a football match. But 5 seconds before the launch, they shut off all the lights. So you're sitting there, it's completely black. The shuttle is about 5 kilometers away. You can kind of see it, but it's all lit up, but it's 5 kilometers away. 5 seconds before the launch, they shut off all the lights. You're sitting there, it's pitch black. When this takes off, the lights from the engine and the lights from boosters turn the night sky into day. So it turns night into day in 1 second. It's so amazing. Just a rare picture because there's 2 shuttles on the launch pad. The reason we had a space shuttle was to build the International Space Station. It's the only thing large enough and powerful enough to build the space station. So the astronauts would get in the shuttle, they'd go up into space, they'd put on a spacesuit, they would go outside and build the space station. If there was something that might cause them harm or injury, they could go inside the space station for safety. But this mission was going to the Hubble telescope. The Hubble's a huge telescope about the size of a bus in space, and it's studying the universe. And this was a repair mission. There was a concern that if they got up into space and there was a problem, there was no safe place for them to go. So they had a second one on the launch pad as a rescue mission. It wasn't necessary, but it was the only time in the history of the space program, or one of the few times, they had 2 active shuttles on the launch pad. Same thing at night. These things are lit up for 20 or 30 kilometers away. They're really pretty at night. This is called the VAB, Vehicle Assembly Building. Anything that goes to space is called a vehicle, and it has to be assembled or put together before it goes to space. And it's done so in this building. All of the moon missions in the 60s and 70s, the Apollo missions, they were all put together in this building. all of the shuttle missions over 30 years were put together in this building. And the future of the space program for America, Artemis, the Artemis missions will be put together in this building as well. So everything is put together in this VAB. Normally, when you see a picture of NASA, you see this big building because it's so famous within NASA. So the VAB is over here, and this is the launch pad. Has to go from there to there. It's 5 kilometers away, and this is how it gets there. This is a crawler transporter. This is a mobile launch platform, and the shuttle has 4 main parts. Part that looks like a plane is called an orbiter because it goes above the Earth and it orbits the Earth. The part in the middle is the fuel tank. It's got liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen, and it's got 2 booster rockets. What's happening? Fancy.
Back on the page down the bottom.
Where?
The page for PowerPoint. Just, you can click.
So I want to show you a launch. I want to show you a little bit about the launch, tell you a little bit about it first. In the orbiter are 3 big engines, and there's 2 booster rockets. Combined is 3 million kilos of lift. And what that means is in order to go up, you must push down with 3 million kilos. So what happens with the shuttle? They start the engine. It's trying to take off. It's got 3 million kilos pushing against the Earth. And what happens as it builds up that power and builds up that power, all of a sudden the Earth starts shaking. It literally shakes the Earth, and all the cars feel it. So all the horns are honking, lights are flashing, sirens are going off, and the Earth is vibrating, and you get this vibration in your feet. It's really amazing. So this is a little bit about a launch.
I don't know. Yeah.
The 7 astronauts on that launch. So for the first 2 minutes, they're bouncing quite a bit around quite a bit. Then the boosters come off and it gets very smooth. Boosters come off above the water, about 5 kilometers above the water. Parachute opens, they fall in the water. A ship goes out, picks them up. They're clean, reused. Then the tank and the orbiter go up in orbit. The tank falls off and burns up in the atmosphere. So if you can imagine, you're sitting on Earth, 8.5 minutes later, you're in space. That's all it takes to get from Earth to space, 8.5 minutes. This is Buzz Lightyear. Buzz Lightyear was brought in the space program to make.
Sir, sorry to interrupt, but we cannot see the screen. Your screen is not coming.
Yeah, I thought there was a problem, but I'm not sure how to correct it.
Press escape. Go back to the on the zoom in behind. Click on share screen again. Share.
Yes, yes, it's coming.
Now
Okay,
play from
It's coming.
slide again.
okay, so I'm not sure how much you saw. Did you see the launch?
No, I think we haven't. We only
Okay.
saw the earlier one. Yeah.
Okay, did you see this slide?
Yes.
Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show you was a launch. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the launch. In the orbiter are 3 big engines and 2 booster rockets. Combined is 3 million kilos pushing against the Earth. It's called 3 million kilos of lift. So that means for something to go up, you have to push down with 3 million kilos. So they start the engines and it's locked down on the launch pad. It's developing power and developing power. And it's trying to take off because the engines have started, but it's locked down. So what happens is, as it develops more and more power, all of a sudden the earth is shaking. So you're watching this, we're about 5 kilometers away. You really can't see it. You really can't hear it. You feel it. So it's really a magical thing. I want to show you the launch. Just remember, when these engines start, it's locked down, and that's when the earth literally shakes. So you see they'll start the engine, trying to take off, but it's locked down. It's
Yes,
building
sir.
up power. This is when the earth is literally shaking. This is steam from water. Well, there's 7 astronauts in that orbiter. For the first 2 minutes, they bounce around quite a bit. After 2 minutes, the boosters come off. It gets very smooth. The boosters come off above the water. They fall in the water. A ship goes out, picks them up. They're brought back to the Space Center, cleaned and reused. So if you can imagine, you're sitting on Earth, 8.5 minutes later, that's all it takes, 8.5 minutes to get from Earth to space. That's how fast this is going. This is Buzz Lightyear. Buzz Lightyear was brought in the space program to make it fun. Everything should be fun. He's named after a very famous astronaut, Buzz Aldrin. Buzz Aldrin was the second person to walk on the moon. That's where Buzz Lightyear got his name. At the launches, Woody's always there, waving when the astronauts leave, clapping when they come back. So this is a really rare picture. It's talking about breaking the sound barrier. When something goes through the sound barrier, it's called a sonic boom. Makes a great big bang. To give you an idea how fast this is, if you have a rifle is a very powerful gun. The rifle bullet goes 3,000 kilometers per hour. But when the shuttle and you're going into space, you're going 27,000 kilometers per hour. So you're going 9 times faster than a rifle bullet with this big ship to break through the atmosphere to get to space. This is called the Orbiter Processing Facility. Remember, the part that looks like a plane is called an orbiter. Every time it goes up in space, it comes back down. It's completely disassembled and everything is checked and it's put back together. So I want to talk to the girls. I want the guys to listen, but this is for the girls. The greatest thing about the shuttle program, before the shuttle program, no women were involved in the space program, none. But with the shuttle program, many, many women engineers got involved. Now girls do everything in the space program, the same as the guys. So I want all the girls to know and all of the guys to know, you can do anything. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. This is the ISS, the International Space Station. Took 12 years to build the ISS. This is 5 years, this is 8 years, and this is how it looks now. It's completely finished. If you would like to see it go over your house here in Delhi, all you have to do is Google Spot the Station, SPOTTHESTATION, Spot the Station. It will ask you for your home address and your email. You give it that information 24 hours before it comes over your house, you'll get an email notice. It's coming over your house and it tells you where to look. It looks like a really bright star, but you know, when you see a star, you don't see the star, you see the light from the star, and it's stationary. But with the ISS, you can see it going over your house for 4 or 5 minutes. This gives you an idea how big it is. This is an American football field, which is bigger than an Indian soccer field. But you can see it's much, much bigger than a football field. It's going around the Earth at 26,000 kilometers per hour. Every 90 minutes, it goes around 1 time. So the astronauts see the sunrise 16 times every day. And then what's called microgravity. So they're floating. On Earth, it would weigh almost 500,000 kilos. In space, it weighs nothing. 16 nations involved in building the ISS. Always like to talk to you about learning. You want to make learning fun. It's so important. Try different things in learning. The more fun you have learning, the easier it is, and the longer you'll remember it. So we all learn differently. Try different things. For the astronauts, they have to go up in space, and they have to build a space station while they're floating. They have to learn to do that on Earth. But on Earth, gravity holds us down. But we can float in water. So NASA said, okay, let's train water floating like we do floating in space. But we don't want to float on top of the water. Gravity will still affect us. We want to float below the surface of the water. So where I showed you that movie in Houston, Texas, they built a great big pool. It's 14 meters deep, by 20 meters wide, by 30 meters long. And that's where the astronauts train. But if they go in the water, they float on top. So they put a weight belt proportional to the weight around their waist. So they go down 7 meters in this 14-meter pool and they stay there. They don't go up, they don't go down. That's called neutral buoyancy. And they practice for a whole year, everything they're going to do in space. This guy's getting ready to go in the water. You see the pool behind him. Everything is the same as in space. This girl, she's getting ready to go in the water. Everywhere she goes, 2 divers accompany her. In case there's a problem, they can get her right out of the water. It's so important you learn to help each other out and learn to work together. You know, many of you will have a BFF, a best friend forever. This is somebody really special in your life. In India, I have a few BFF, but in America, I only have one. And his name is Randall. And this is Randall. Randall is totally blind. He can't see anything. But I want you to know he does everything. So if you think you have, if you think you can't do something, Randall is going to say to you, I'm blind, I can do it. And he's going to be your new BFF. Everywhere you go, Randall is going to go with you. And if you think you can't do something, he's going to say to you, yes, you can do it. Don't be afraid to try. And you can never fail. Anytime you do something, you learn. And when you learn, you become a better and wiser person. So never be afraid to try something. Know that your new BFF, Randall, he's going to go everywhere you go. And he's going to tell you, I can do it, so can you. Next thing I want to show you what it's like to live up in space. It's a little movie about what it's like to live up in space. Now, when you're up in space, nothing weighs anything. So you have to exercise every day. So you see this guy riding a stationary bike for exercise. There's no seat. He's just floating up there. And his water bottle's just beside him. See how this guy's got his feet hooked so he doesn't float away. But everything floats, so you never lose muscles. Even the crew is floating around as well. This guy's shaving, he doesn't have to put his razor down. The guy in the back is taking a bath. You can't really take a shower without water goes everywhere. It's called a sponge bath. They wet a cloth and wipe themselves down. But they're in a sterile environment. It's not like Earth with no germs in space. This guy takes a drink, instead of putting it in his mouth, he pours it out. All liquids become a ball in space. Everybody sleeps in the sleeping bag. You can sleep standing on your head, horizontal, vertical, any position you want. It all feels the same. To get around, you give yourself a little push, and you never stop. You're just having fun. This great big box, if it was a room with 1,000 people, they couldn't move it, they couldn't budge it, but it weighs nothing in space. So she moves it around all by herself. They're having a little taco break now. There's no chairs. They're all floating around that table. And they're having a little taco break. And there's ET. Everybody says, where does ET come from? Now you know. The next thing I want to show you what it's like to be in space and look down on the Earth. So you'll see how the continents all lit up from space. This part on the top is called the ionosphere. It separates our atmosphere from space. Remember, every 90 minutes they have a new day. So when they're in space, they see the sunrise 16 times every day. This is my favorite part. The northern lights. The northern lights happen when solar storms come from the sun. They come with electrons and they hit our atmosphere. They give us all those pretty colors. They could be green or yellow, red, or orange, or blue, depending on the altitude, depending on whether it's oxygen or not. We can see it's a lot of fun to be up in space. The astronauts love looking out the window. They love looking at the stars because above our atmosphere, we're not much closer to the stars, but the stars are much clearer because the atmosphere doesn't distort them. Also have a solar flare that comes from the sun. And when a solar flare hits the sun, you get these magical looking skies. Future of the space program involves going to Mars. Scientists believe billions of years ago, Mars was a lot like Earth. It had oceans and lakes and rivers, even an atmosphere like Earth. So I think something may have been alive on Mars at one day, or may still be alive today. People may say to you, the Earth is flat. If somebody says to you, the Earth is flat, you just say yes and walk away. Don't waste your time trying to argue with them or change your mind. But we know the Earth is round and it's really pretty. So let's jump on a ship. Let's go to Mars. Not quite that something simple. There's something called opposition. What opposition means is things are moving. So the Earth is spinning, Mars is spinning. They're going around the sun, different speeds and different orbits. So you want to launch something on Earth and have it land on Mars over 400 million kilometers away. The beginning of the space program, they struggled a little bit, but now they've got it down pretty good. So this rover was called Spirit. It was sent to Mars over 20 years ago to look for water, because scientists believe if water exists, life exists. And they found a lot of water on Mars, below the surface and above the surface. We can't drink it, it's acidic, but it will be converted to drinking water in the future. So remember those things we talked about earlier. Do your best, enjoy what you do, believe in yourself. Doing your best is pretty easy, just do your best. So I want to show you a launch, but I want to tell you something about it. When we see a launch in Florida, we all go to the beach. Around the beach, we're looking across the water at the launch pad and we see the launch. But there's also a public address system where we hear announcements. We are engineers talking to a launch director, monitoring all the systems on the rocket. When all of the engineers tell the launch director, all systems are good, they say go for launch and they count down. And this is what we do. We're on the beach, we're watching this launch, and we all count down. I want you to count down with it. You will hear them counting down. We're going to count down together. And when we get to 0, they'll blast off and we jump up and down and clap. I want you to do this, but I want you to do something. I want you to do your best. Just do your best. And then I'm going to prove something to you. So just count from 10 to 0, yell blast off, and we'll all have some fun watching this launch. This comes from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. And this is Mars, over 400 million kilometers from Earth. So you're going to hear the engineers talking to the launch director. This is a Delta rocket, has 9 boosters. In the nose cone in the top is where that rover is. The rover's called Spirit. It weighs about 200 kilos.
SSC disconnect enable on. 35. Let guys go. Hydraulics go.
So when they count down with it.
Pressurized vehicle box tank.
When it gets to 0, we're going to yell blast off. We're going to jump up and down.
LCVR had the deck select on. On. Pressures go.
Okay, ready? Count down.
9,
8, 7.
7,
Come on, 6,
4,
5,
4,
come on, 4,
3,
3,
3,
2, 1.
1.
And then say blast off,
one.
clap. Come on, everybody,
Blast
clap.
off.
Delta rocket.
So you see when he gets to a certain speed, certain altitude, the boosters will start coming up.
Program response is good. Program is in.
They call Earth a pretty blue planet because of all the water. So you're going to see a lot of different pieces on this mission. Each piece has a function. Some are for navigation to keep it going in the right direction. Some are propulsion to keep it going at the right speed. Remember, the planets are going around the sun, different speeds, different orbits, and they're spinning. So it's got to adjust for all of those variations. So you see when it goes by the sun, you see the sun and all the billions of stars in our solar system. And then think about something. You're on this ship and you're going to Mars. It's going to take you 7 months. You're going to be on this ship for 7 months. So you have to stay mentally and physically fit. That's why you have to exercise and learn to stay fit in space. Anytime something goes through an atmosphere, it generates a lot of heat. So it has to have a heat shield to protect it. Didn't have that heat shield, it would burn up and the mission would be a failure. Mars's atmosphere is very thin. It doesn't slow down. So a parachute will open to slow it down. Then the heat shield will fall away. It's like Australia. So it's in this canister. This canister is an inflatable canister with a 100-meter long rope. When it gets fully extended, it inflates. It's still going very fast, so they fire some rockets to slow it down. And about 50 meters above the surface, they let it go. It bounces and rolls and bounces and rolls until it comes to a stop. It's counterbalanced, so it'll end up on its wheels. First it deflates, and solar panels unfold. They take energy from the sun, they convert it to electricity. That's what's used to power the rover. And a TV camera will lift up. So it's going around Mars, it's looking for water, and it's trying to determine when was water present. So there's sensors in the bottom of it. It can determine if water was present at some time, but they want to know when. So they'll find a rock and drill a hole in a rock and look at the center of the rock. And a geologist can analyze that and tell how old that rock is. So they found a lot of water on Mars above the surface and below the surface. So I'm going to cut this a little short because we don't have a lot of time. I want to show you another movie. So this is another rover. This rover is called Curiosity. It's much different than Spirit. It weighs 1,000 kilos and it's nuclear powered. It's got this really fancy laser. It can shoot a laser beam at a rock and blow it apart and analyze it. It's looking for life. If it finds something interesting, it's got a big fancy drill. It can drill a hole, take a sample and put it inside of itself and analyze it. So I want to show you how this landed, not how it got there, but I want you to count down again. And I'm going to prove to you, do your best. If you did your best last time, and you do your best this time, you will get better because you learn something. It applies to everything you do. So try to always learn to do your best. Never be concerned about what happens. It's not what you want. It's okay. Do it again. So this is an Atlas rocket. You hear them counting down just like last time. But when they get to 1, they don't say 0 and blast off. Remember with the shuttle, they had to start the engines and build power. They have to do the same with this because it weighs so much more. The other one didn't weigh anything, so they took straight off. This, they have to start the engines, build a little bit of power, and then they take off. So when it gets to 1, they'll say main engine start, then 0, and then I want you to jump up and down, clap, just do your best. Okay, count down with it.
10,
9,
9,
8,
7,
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Main engine start, 0, and now jump up and down and clap. Come on. I hear some clapping.
With Curiosity, seeking clues to the planetary puzzle about life on Mars.
I just want to show you how it landed. Same thing, it's going through the atmosphere, it has to have a heat shield to protect it. Big shot parachute will open just like the last one. But when the heat shield falls away, Curiosity has its own propulsion system. Flies around Mars looking for a landing site. That's a sky crane, it lowers it down. And it's on Mars right now, sending back by me. This is another rover. This rover is called Perseverance. It looks a lot like Curiosity, but it's much sophisticated. It's got something called MOXIE. Mars's atmosphere is carbon dioxide. We cannot breathe it, but it's got oxygen, which we can breathe. So MOXIE is going to separate the carbon dioxide, the oxygen from the carbon dioxide, and convert it to breathing air for astronauts. And they've tested this. It actually works. It's functioning on Mars, doing that right now. The future of the space program, they're going to pick up samples. They're going to bring them back to Earth. The next thing I told you, I'd show you a little movie on what it's like to see the night sky on Mars. So if you look at the sky on Mars, there's no lights. So you see all those billions of stars every night. It's Curiosity. Seeing it from Mars and look at the night sky. This is what scientists believe Mars looked like billions of years ago. They think it looked a lot like Earth. One of the most important things I want to talk to you about, if you don't remember anything, I want you to remember this. This looks like a NASA shirt. Actually, a shirt that was given me by a group of kids in Africa. The name of the school is Lako School Anton Wamwao, and in bottom says, live your dream. I was talking to them about dreams, and I want to talk to you about those 3 things. It's so important. We don't have a lot of time, but I really want to talk to you about this. This is the most important thing we're going to talk about today. Remember those 3 things. Do your best. That's pretty easy. Just do your best. Enjoy what you do. Enjoy everything you do. This is a little bit more challenging, but you can learn to enjoy everything you do. And the most important thing, believe in yourself. Very few people have this belief in yourself. So how do you get that belief in yourself? What you have to do, if you have a dream, you write it down and you say, this is my goal. And you ask yourself, what steps do I take to achieve it? And you plan small steps. Don't be in a hurry. You want to build that belief in yourself slowly and very, very slowly and build it. So what you do is you plan this small step. Every time you complete a step, it will give you confidence. When you have confidence, it helps you develop belief in yourself. And you do that over a long period of time, very slowly. Develop belief in yourself and it gets stronger and stronger. And one day you say to yourself, I can do anything. And when you believe you can do anything, you will never have stress. You'll never have pressure. You will just go do it because you believe you can do it. So learn to develop that belief in yourself where you actually believe you can do anything. So those three things: do your best, enjoy what you do, believe in yourself. You will never work. Nothing will ever be hard. You will not have stress. You will not have pressure. You can be very successful in life and live this way. And this is what I do. I skip through these because we're kind of running out of time. Future of the space program is called Artemis. Artemis is Apollo's twin sister. When astronauts went to the moon in the 60s and 70s, they went under the Apollo program. Apollo is the Greek god who loved the moon. Only men went to the moon. Artemis is Apollo's twin sister. So under Artemis, women are going to go to the moon for the first time. And this is being done right now. About a year ago, they had a mission that went to the moon, around the moon and into deep space and came back. And now next year, they're going to have astronauts do the same thing. But there's going to be women on this mission. That's why it's called Artemis. And then in the future, they're going to send this mission to the moon. They're going to land on the moon. They're going to build a base on the moon. Both men and women are going to live on the moon. They're going to learn to live on the moon and take those lessons and take them to Mars. So this is the rocket. The rocket's called SLS, and the name of the capsule is Orion. So I'm going to skip this last thing, the one thing I want to talk to you, and then we'll take some questions. I've been to 17 countries around the world, and kids always say to me, hey, Gabe, what's it like to be at the Space Center? What do you do up in space? What's it like to go into space? And one of the questions I'm asked is, how do you go to the bathroom in space? So this is a Canadian astronaut. He's going to tell you how you go to the bathroom in space.
When you go to the bathroom on Earth, you're relying on gravity pretty heavily. Imagine if you were halfway done and somebody shut off gravity, it would be a mess. And you'd float off the toilet. So when we designed our space toilet, first it has to have a seat belt on it to hold you down. And then we decided to separate solids and liquids because they're easier to store that way. So we just have a tube that you pee into, and it has air pulled into the tube. So it's not a big deal. For the women, there's a cup fits up against them. For the guys, it's just like a little funnel. You just pee into this tube and it goes into a sewage tank. But the solids that come out of your body, that's a harder problem to solve. And it's an important medical one, because on Earth, everything falls on the floor. But in space, it's going to float around. So it'll really make you sick. If you re-ingest something that came out of your body, it will really make you sick. And we can't afford to get that sick. So we designed a toilet that instead of gravity pulling everything into the toilet, it has air flow. There's air pulled down into the toilet, sort of windy when you're sitting there, but it pulls everything out of your body. Everything that comes out of your body gets pulled down into the toilet by the air. And then in the storage tank, we just expose that to the vacuum of space. So it basically just freeze dries everything. So it kills all the bacteria so that there's no smell. And then we just store it. And then when you have a whole bunch of it stored, we put it in a little unmanned supply ship and we undock it and it burns up in the atmosphere. So the next time you see a beautiful shooting star going across the sky, that's what it might be.
So I want to tell you a little bit about this movie and then we'll stop screen sharing and I'll answer some questions. So if you think about this movie, it's a comical way of saying what happens in space. You really can't see that ship, but we all wish on stars from the time we're little kids. Our whole lives, we wish on a star. So next time you see that star, make your wish. Go home, write it down and say, this is my goal. And ask yourself, what steps do I take to achieve it? And remember, small steps. Don't be in a hurry. Use those steps to build your confidence, to build that belief in yourself to the point that you think you can do anything. So remember those three things. Do your best, enjoy what you do, believe in yourself. I'm going to stop screen sharing now and hopefully we can answer some questions. So if we have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Yeah. First of all, sir, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing such brilliant pictures, and also give us, besides sitting in India, we got a little overview about the NASA, and also some really fascinating visuals you show about the Mars and also the rovers and other missions. So really, I think everyone got little insight about the details and how the things goes in space, like the rocket launch and everything. So thank you so much for sharing all such. And now we can take some questions. Yeah, Shania, you, I saw your hand is raised.
Yes,
Please go ahead.
ma'am. Yeah, ma'am. Yes, sir. I just had one question that you showed us that in the video that in which the rocket was separating from its parts. So why does it happen and how does it happen?
So each piece has a function, and they're actually linked together, and a computer will tell them when to separate. Some of them are for speed, to keep it going at the same speed. Remember, it's going to some place where things are moving. So that's why it has these different pieces. Some are for navigation, to keep it going in the right direction. Some are for propulsion, but they're linked together and they're computer ejected. It can be either just separated. Sometimes they have little explosion devices, but that's why they have these different pieces, to try to make up for the distance of the planets are spinning. They're going around the solar system, different speeds and different orbits. So they're constantly adjusting.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. My pleasure. You got a great smile.
Yes. So yes, Dakshit, you go ahead, please. Open your mic first. Dakshit, you open your mic. Your mic, you are muted now. Please open your mic and ask question. So meanwhile, we can take next question. I think Dakshit won't be able to open his mic. Anvi Jain, please go ahead.
What is the difference between rocket and spaceship?
Well, I really was broken up. I couldn't hear the question.
Yes. Anvi, your voice was very much breaking. Will you able to write it in the chat box? Because many noise are coming. Please write in the chat box and I'll be taking your question. Shrey, you can go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So I wanted to ask that if we could use wormholes to travel faster between the for intergalaxial and interplanetary travel, and maybe interuniversal in the future.
I didn't quite understand that. Can you help me? I wasn't sure what he asked.
I asked that if we could use wormholes, and are they stable enough to travel to do faster travel in between the planets and the galaxies?
If we could use wormholes, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, a wormhole, is something way out in the distance. It's something I don't believe you can actually capture and use the energy from that. But I don't think that's possible. Maybe in the future, but I don't think it's possible now.
But can it be stable enough to implement it in a spacecraft?
I don't believe so. I don't, I think that's kind of my science fiction. My knowledge, I'm an engineer, so I'm not a scientist, but I don't think that would be possible. But anything is possible. But to me, it would take a lot of advancement in technology to get there.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. I hope I answered. I did the best I could.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sir, Anvi was asking actually what is the difference between a rocket and spaceship? Generally, we use the term rocket and spaceship. So she just wanted to get a little clarity on this.
Sure, that's fine. So a rocket is something that takes a ship to space. The ship is where the people live and actually work in space, but they have to get to space. So the rocket ship takes them there. Then the rocket ship separates. They stay up in space in a ship, and they come back in that same ship. So the rocket is actually what takes them to space. Okay?
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yes, go ahead, Shnaya. You again raised your hand. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I had the second question. Like you told us, like there is water on Mars, so is there other elements like fire and air is also on Mars?
So probably she wanted to understand, is there any possibility for life or any other things available on Mars? This is what you want to ask?
Yes, basically, this is.
So scientists believe if water exists, life exists. So they have not found any life in the water on Mars yet, but they're always exploring to see what it is. But there is water on Mars, a lot of water below the surface and above the surface. So if there's life, it may be some kind of very, very small microscopic life. It's not going to be like us walking around, but they have not found it yet. They have found water, but they have not found any life in the water.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, you're very
Adve, please.
Yes. Is it possible that we can use sky hooks to travel to different planets?
Well, you know, I'm not sure how what a skyhook would do and how that would work. But at one time they talked about having an elevator to space. So to me, you know, I don't understand how these things could work. A skyhook, I'm not sure how it would be fastened in space to hook something up to take to it. So I don't think that's possible, although I think anything is possible. But to me, it's not reality. Do you know what a skyhook is?
Yes. Like we can use a type of rockets to boost other spaceships to different planets. Will that be able to be possible? Like,
Yeah, that would be possible, but I'm not sure how you call that a skyhook.
it's just a possible term that you can give it.
Yeah, well, if you're saying it the way you explain it, then it's possible, I think.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. Akul, after Akul, we can take Aryaveer and then Suvir. Go, Akul. Akul Gupta, please.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, audible. Please go ahead.
So sir, thank you for recognizing me. Actually, I had a doubt. We know that there are robots which we can like send on Moon, Mars, and all the other planets. So the robots work like they have they are already coded to work like that, or are we like giving commands to them from the down, like from the control room?
Yeah, so I think you're asking me, are these programmed to do things or are they sending up specific requests? So normally
Yeah.
they're programmed, they're computer programmed before they go to space, but they always have a way to adjust it and override it if there's a problem. So they are programmed to do certain things, but they also have the ability to intercept that program and adjust along the way if they have to.
So like if they malfunction or something, they like probably having a feature like which can help them repair themselves.
Yes, if they malfunction, usually there's 2 or 3 different backup opportunities. They can try different things. Many times things aren't working the way you think. They have to shut it down and reconfigure it and try again. So they do have the ability to adjust if it isn't working, if it's not too bad.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Aryaveer, please go ahead.
Yes. Good evening, sir. So I had 2 questions. So
Sure.
my first one is that does space smell while in a spacewalk? Are there any reports of the space, like some particular smell?
I didn't quite understand. Can you help me with what that is?
Like we smell some things on Earth. So
Oh.
something like that in space.
So every astronaut that goes to space comes back and says they had a smell in space, but they're all different. So it depends on each person, what they have sensors in them, what they detect in the way of smell, if that's what you're asking me. But they do say some people smells like burnt something or other. Different astronauts say different things. So there must be some kind of smell, but I don't think it's been accepted that this is the only type. But they do say they smell something in space.
So actually, sir, he wanted to know, and even we wanted to know, is there any kind of a report that NASA have, like any documented things we have in terms of smell or anything we can smell it? Like it's a report in a report format, because individual things can be vary person to person, but anything in a documented form we have related to space smell.
I don't know. They may have something. I don't know that they have that. I just know that the
Okay.
astronauts, and when the astronauts come back, they give their own version of what they smell.
Yes.
There's probably
Yes.
some kind of documentation that puts it all together, but I don't think they've come up with a specific thing. And I'm not sure that they can because it's different for every person.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
sir. So my
Arvind?
second question was, how do scientists measure the distances between objects in space?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I would think just like they measure the distance from Earth to space, they have a laser or some kind of something that they measure by speed and how long it takes to get there. So I would think it's a combination of speed and time, how they measure things. They have lasers, they have different things they send to measure. But I think and again, I'm not a scientist. So from my perspective,
Triangulation.
yeah, triangulation, some kind of mathematical formula that they use. But to me, mainly it's something is going so fast. How long does it take to get there? That's how far away it is.
Yes, and the last thing I wanted to ask that, could you repeat that? From what speed does the spacecraft leave from Earth to the space?
Sure. So the spacecraft leaves about 27,000 kilometers per hour to get through the atmosphere, to break through the atmosphere to get to space.
Thank you, sir. That was it for today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your questions. They were all excellent.
Suvir Kharbanda, please go ahead.
Yes. Good afternoon. Yeah. Yes. Can we send me some audio, sir?
You're not audible, Suvir. Your voice is not clear.
Am I audible now?
Yes, but a lot of echo is coming. We'll try to understand what you're saying. Please go ahead.
So I have three questions in total. 3 or 2 questions in total. The first one is, when a rocket exits the Earth's atmosphere, a sonic boom is there. So can it be felt? Is there a particular distance the sonic boom can be felt, or is it not fixed?
So I really didn't understand. It was hard to hear you. Can you help at all?
Yes, also lot of echo is coming now also because of this.
Yeah.
Suvir, will it be possible for you to write it? Because then we can take
Yes.
that questions.
I'll
Yes,
write it.
please go ahead.
The astronauts feel it when they pass the.
Is that what it was?
So he's writing, sir. I think we will take, he's putting in the chat.
Is
Yes.
he asking if they can feel the sonic boom when they go through it? Is that what he's asking?
We also don't know, sir.
Okay.
What actually,
Okay.
because a lot of echo is coming while he
Sure.
was talking. So I'm not able to understand actually.
Yeah, we did hear sonic boom, so that much we got.
Yes. Only.
So we can take, meanwhile he is writing, we can take Shrey and then Akul Aryavir as your hands are raised. Shrey, you want to ask something?
Yes, ma'am. Again,
Please go ahead.
sorry. I'm sorry for a little kiddish doubt, but I had a doubt that which material is really sustainable and what we can use for traveling really fast in space. Like if we want to go over the speed that is currently we have achieved till the history of the space program.
So this is not at all a kiddish question, first of all. Very relevant and very apt question.
Sorry.
So yes, will you able to take this question?
Yeah, so normally I think he's asking, or she's asking, I'm not sure, about what materials are used to go to space.
Material, yeah.
I think that's what
Yes.
they're asking. Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so one of the issues with going to space is weight. So they have to have something very thin but very strong. So they developed ways to have very thin, very strong metals on the spaceship. When they get into space, there's no friction, there's no weight. So the same materials would probably be used, but it's a matter of propulsion. How do they go faster once they go into space? This is really the limiting factor right now, trying to go faster. We sent a probe to Pluto. It took 10 years to get to Pluto. So you can't put a person in a ship and send them up for 10 years. So there's got to be a lot done more to get going faster and faster in space. I think the materials won't matter much because there's nothing to really damage those materials at speed. At least that's my view.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I had one more question. What role does, because of the new influence of artificial intelligence, what role does it play in the new space programs and all of NASA, like the new Artemis launch?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure it's got anything to do with the new Artemis launch, but it's definitely going to be the way of the future. You know, AI is something that's being developed and expanded very, very quickly. And it's going to be an important part of the space program, I believe. But I don't think right now it's being used. But probably in the short term, it will be a very important part.
The SpaceX side of things they are using.
Yeah, SpaceX is using some of it, but it's still in the development stage. And NASA's probably using it to a certain degree as well.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Yes. Anvi, go ahead.
So I have a question that space is infinity or like it has a limit also.
Sorry, we are not able to listen anything, Anvi, because of the voice, because of the noise is coming along with your voice. Unable to hear it. Yes, that would be great if you can write it in the chat. Karan, go ahead. Karan Unyal.
Sir, you were a formal
Yes, formal.
member of NASA. According to you, what should be the qualities of employee of NASA?
So
You were
wanted,
asking-
sir, wanted to know, sir, because you have worked in NASA. So anything as an aspirant you would like to guide if anyone wants to join NASA as a team member. So what credential one should have? I think this is what he wanted to hold so last.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, NASA is like any other job, and NASA is like a little city. So within NASA, you can do almost anything. You can be a cook, you can be a nurse, an engineer like me, you can be an astronaut. So it really depends on what you want to do, where you're most qualified. One of the biggest challenges for you as an Indian citizen, you have to be an American citizen in order to work for NASA. But you have ISRO here. If you can get involved in ISRO and you can get some experience, and one of the things you have to do if you want to be an American citizen, you have to get to America. So I always recommend university is the best way to get there. As you get to high school and you start thinking about going to university, you can try to go to university in America. And depending on what you want to study, if you want to be an astronaut, aerospace or aeronautical engineers are two great opportunities. But any engineering field will help you get there. But you have to become an American citizen. So you have to get to America and live there, establish residency. They have many, many great programs in America for international students. So you can try to apply to go to a university, get in America, going to a university, stay there, establish residency, become a citizen, get experience, apply to go to NASA, almost any kind of job you like. But it's going to take time. Don't be in a hurry. It's going to take a lot of time, but it doesn't matter. Either way, you're going to pass through that time. So pass through it, trying to reach something you really enjoy, but just don't be in a hurry.
Thank you,
Great
sir.
advice. Great
You're very
advice. I think with this, I think we'll close today's session. So it was a completely privilege for Nehru Planetarium. Yeah, but
I have 2-3 questions.
so can you quickly ask, because our meeting time is getting like about to finish. So that's why.
Yes, ma'am.
Quickly.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you, buddy.
Sir, I want to ask that when we can available to live on Mars.
So one of the problems with living on Mars, we cannot breathe the air. We cannot drink the water. The weather is terrible. They have a radiation problem. Our planet Earth has a strong magnetic core and an atmosphere of that. So there's many, many things that will deter us from living on Mars in a permanent basis. But astronauts will live on Mars, and they'll live in a big domed area where they are protected against radiation. They're going to take the water on Mars, which has acid in it, remove the acid, convert it to drinking water for astronauts.